Hello, I'm Judat and welcome to Forward 40 Moves. You know, as food has gotten to be convenient, what we put on our plates has actually gotten to be more complicated. Because suddenly when we come to a supermarket, we're faced with a whole ton of labels like vegan and non-GMO and gluten-free and raw food. But what do those labels really mean? Today I'm in Fresh, which is a beautiful, amazing, gorgeous organic store located in Marval, Trinidad. And I'm going to be joined by a nutritionist, and she's going to take me around the store, and together we're going to make sense of all the labels for you. You don't want to miss this. I'm really glad you're here because it helps us to kind of make sense about what we see when we go to the supermarket.
Okay.
So for instance, this section, which is full of, let's see, whole grain and gluten-free stuff and organic. So let's start with gluten-free and what that really means.
Okay, great. So these are gluten-free waffles,
Yes.
I guess. But in general, what gluten-free means are that there are grains that contain gluten and grains that don't.
Right.
So anything that made out of whole wheat or wheat of any kind is going to have gluten.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of people mistake whole wheat or wheat-free for gluten-free. But there are other grains that also contain gluten, right? So spelt does contain gluten. Rye would also contain gluten.
So there's an effect on the body if you're gluten intolerant. Like for instance, if I eat pasta and my tummy looks as if I'm 9 months pregnant the next day, am I gluten intolerant?
Well, you can't diagnose that. There's actually a test that you would have to take to really be diagnosed as gluten.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Intolerant of gluten, because it could be other things in the product you're eating as well, right? So you don't just want to blame it all on the gluten.
So why is gluten such this? It's suddenly like this big buzzword in food.
That's a great question. It's really because there's a disease called celiac disease. And people who have celiac disease, literally gluten destroys their intestinal tract. So they cannot have even 1 drop of gluten. So they have to completely eliminate gluten from their diet. So really the whole gluten-free craze started with facilitating people who have this disease, and then it kind of grew and blossomed into this thing that everybody thought was...
So I don't so if my tummy swells just a little bit, if I'm slightly gassy after having something with whole wheat, I shouldn't kind of automatically move to gluten-free.
Right. You should first cut out wheat. So maybe it's the wheat that may be the problem, but not gluten of itself, right? Because if you cut out gluten, there's so many other things you have to cut out other than just wheat products.
Okay. All right. So let's look at organic. So these are organic whole grain waffles. So I am thinking organic means no pesticides. Am I right?
It should, yes. Yes. And most of the products that are labeled organic would be imported products because in the US it's a regulated term. So it has to be approved by the USDA in order to be able to be called organic. The challenge for us here in Trinidad is that we don't have such a regulating body. So really we don't have things that are certified organic, but you can always still ask the producer or the farmer how they grow the food. So without pesticides, without not using GMO products, and GMO is another term that we often see, right? So that's genetically modified organisms.
Right. And that has to do with gene splicing.
Yes, so it's really an agricultural process that was developed where they alter the genetics of the crop to get some sort of benefit. So either to make it resistant to some sort of
And I think what they also said was perhaps even solve world hunger because you just have more food.
Right. So
to splice the genes and grow more crop.
Yeah, so they're looking for ways to genetically make the crop stronger and sturdier and able to produce more. The concern, now it's a very highly debated topic, right? There are points for it, there are points against it, but the concern is that when we start messing with nature, sometimes we think we're doing a good thing, but it's not till years down the road that we may see the consequences or
So should I
understand
be
the
concerned
consequences.
if I buy an eggplant and it's genetically modified and it's been in my fridge for like 4 weeks and it remains robust and as purple, no molding? Should I be concerned? Should I eat that after 4 weeks?
That's a tricky question.
All kinds of tricky questions this morning.
So I'll just break it down in terms of what it means.
Yeah.
Right? So when you buy organic products that have not been grown with pesticides and chemicals and are not GMO, they naturally decay because that's what food is supposed to do.
Right.
Right? And organisms, natural like bacterial organisms, the healthy type, they would assist in the degrading of food, right? So when you see a product, the eggplant that you just described, and it's not disintegrating on its own, that generally means that maybe your body is not going to be able to break it down either as well because of for whatever reason that it has that extended shelf life, right? So it's just, I wouldn't say, you know, you have to throw it out, right? But at the same time, just be aware that it's not quite normal.
Okay, so we took care of organic, we took care of whole grain a little bit, and of course gluten free. So let's go down this way, and we're going to talk about raw foods.
Okay.
And what that really means.
Okay, great.
Let's go.